I'm about to speak to Robin Hutson, who is a fantastic guy, but also he is someone who knows everything about the hotel industry. He was the founder of Hotel de Vin. He went on to become chairman of Soho House, and now he's the founder of the Pig Hotel Group that also looks after the Limewood Hotel. And he's just a wonderful, calm, gentle soul. But what he doesn't know about the hotel industry isn't worth knowing. I want to talk to him today about the industry, but also what we can all learn from how he is looking at reopening the Pig Hotel, what he's doing to pivot at this point in time, how he's communicating with his customers. And I just know that, like the Conversations of Inspiration that I had with him, the podcast, only a few months ago, I certainly will take something very valuable out of this conversation.
Holly, hi.
How are you?
Very good. Just wrestling with me tech.
I just want to ask you, before we get into sort of business, how are you personally?
All good. As you say, I mean, we really, we couldn't at all have imagined what was around the corner. But no, all is, all is well.
But Robin, yeah. I wanted just to sort of dive in because, as you know, massive fan of the Pig, and just, ridiculous. This is going to be like one big 30-minute advert for the Pig. But hospitality, obviously, throughout, the industry has been one of the hardest hit. What are your views? And because on the 21st of March, you shut the kitchens, didn't you? And then you shut the hotels a few days later. Tell me about that whole period of time for you.
Well, it was such a fast-moving theatre of operations, wasn't it? I mean, what seemed relevant one day, we were planning to put instructions in for the staff to, wash their hands every half an hour.
Yes, I remember.
Seemed sort of outdated by the next day, and it was just moving so very, very quickly. We didn't know whether we'd be open, closed, half open. We were talking about, we did space some tables and put in a fairly rigorous hygiene regime for everyone, but events really overtook us, and yeah. I think it was by the Friday. I think it was on the Friday. Government announced that all restaurants and bars would be closed, and I think we were allowed to stay open on the Saturday. We had weekend guests at all of the hotels. We were doing pretty good business, amazingly. I think at that time there was a sense that the countryside was perhaps a safer place to be than the central London or large cities. So we were doing well, but we had to tell everyone that we were closing the restaurant. We had one or two guests stay on for another couple of days just because of that. They couldn't rearrange their plans. Yeah. So it was room service for them, and pretty quiet. And then I think we finally closed our doors on the Monday. So
what I've loved seeing is how you've used Instagram, though, because you've now got your gorgeous lambs running around the hotel gardens. Your recipes, you're posting on for the Pig at Home, supporting local communities and local produce. And you've got the Pig at Home playlists that you can listen to. It's inspiring what you're doing, but tell me about this sort of pivoting and Petra from Curb called it swiveling. Tell me about what you feel you've done and what you might keep on or what you've learnt, but what's really happening maybe behind the scenes?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the sort of communication. I think, the whole, this whole, however many weeks it's been, 6 weeks, is it?
Yeah, 6, yeah.
Has been about the communication to all the various stakeholders, really. So first and foremost, it was communicating to our team. We have about 800 odd staff throughout the whole estate. That's the Pigs, and of course we look after Limewood as well, and the ski hotel in France, Portetta. So across all of those hotels, 800 odd staff. So really trying to give them some confidence and reassure them that we were going to take care of them during a period of huge anxiety and uncertainty. So that was the first kind of line of communication, if you like. There were various people who obviously had reservations booked for a few days' time or a few months' time, or we had weddings booked in. You know, we had all in the whole range of normal hotel activities. So trying to keep them up to date with current thoughts on where we were. And as I say, that was changing so quickly. You know, what we were telling them one day was out of date by the next.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, we have a fairly effective social media presence anyway. So our decision to make best use of that, and we started putting our heads together. And I have to say, it's lots of clever people that understand social media much better than I do that came up with the idea of the newsletters and so on. And then, of course, then there's the local communities as well. Yes. And, you know, lots of people have done lots of amazing, you know, I mean, if there's one thing out of this whole situation, there have been some extraordinary acts of kindness and which is wonderful to see. And so you try to do your bit, really. And we had kitchen gardens that were starting to really sort of bear fruit, as it were. So we decided that we would deliver veg boxes to the local community, to food banks, and in the case of Canterbury, the bridge near, the pig at Bridge Place near Canterbury, we're very close to Howlett Zoo. And we took a lot of brassicas down to the gorillas, who are, of course, an endangered species. So even they benefited from what was coming out of the gardens. So.
What do you think? Let me ask a couple of questions, because otherwise this is going to be too many. I'm a restaurant manager of a small 10-table independent. Any advice for post-lockdown? You know, as someone who owns a cafe myself, you know, if I have 10 tables and I take out 5, you know, and I try and cover the costs of 2 members of staff, you know, and all the food I need to bring in, it's not worth me opening. I would lose money if I opened. And so I'm sure, but on a scale, you're similar, you know, that there is this balance between, well, we might be allowed to do it, but can we do it? Yeah,
no, and you know, I think therein lies the rub, doesn't it? Of course, there are certain things that present themselves as opportunities, and there are things that we may have to do. I mean, you highlighted the issue of the high level of fixed costs with a you know, if we have a downward trend in terms of how we can fill up our establishments. So if we've got 50% occupancy and we've got 100% of costs or close to, then you know, clearly we have a problem. So I think what is worth looking at is the costs that potentially could be variable. So I've challenged as an exercise, I've challenged our head chefs. What happens if we say that we're going to run at a 20% food cost menu instead of a 28% food cost menu? I mean, this makes a huge difference across the whole estate. And potentially it's where the skill of the chefs actually comes in even more. Yes. I'll be very interested to see what the chefs come up with you know, trying to create a menu that has a completely different cost base. So that's something that practically that we can do. Equally, I think there's some procedures that really don't need to happen. Check in and check out. Why do we need that? We don't. We can do that. We can meet people at the car and we can take them to their room and they can express checkout without seeing a person on the way out, and it can all be done electronically. That kind of thing, you know, is easy. But the real core of what we do, and I think, you know, I know you're a pig fan, so and I think, you know, if you really analysed what you love about coming to see us, apart from hopefully some good food, is the atmosphere of
yes.
the place. And so the bit that I absolutely struggle with is if we have to alter our modus operandi so radically that it destroys that buzzy, friendly, comforting, comfortable attitude and atmosphere, then I really struggle to see how it will feel really at that stage.
And also, I think you've raised a really good point there, Robin, because it's about what is the core of your brand that is you can't go there. Those bits can't move, and then it's almost, you know this, in a normal day, when would you ever really be able to analyze the hell out of your business? You can't. And possibly people are being given the time to look at their brand and say, right, these bits are sacred. They don't go. So until I can do these things, they're not moving. Also, I've been saying to small businesses is, let's use the opportunity now to get your business into a better shape post. If you can shave off that cost, actually that's great for your business's health long term. So I just think that's a really great tip for everyone watching from Robin, which is, what is the sacred things of your brand? And what are those things that you could challenge? Magpie Creative Co. Has shifting your brand online affected your business positively? And will you continue to be online, i.e. continuing the online cooking tutorials after you've physically been able to visit again?
I think, I think that, as you said earlier, I think the great thing about having to rethink what we do, hopefully at the end of it, we'll be left with some bits that we love or have been very successful. Or, only yesterday I was talking to the team and said, well, okay, the only thing we're selling at the moment are pig books and vouchers, so the vouchers for stays, and which are selling very, very well. And so I said to the team yesterday, well, let's have a really good look at e-commerce, because it's the one part of this whole situation that seems to be thriving generally. You will know this.
Yes.
So what does it look like if we have a range of 40 things that we're selling without looking? I hate the idea of a sort of hotel shop with branded T-shirts and things. That's not what I want to be doing. But I could imagine garden seedlings online and outdoor exercise kit or I don't know. I don't even know what I'm talking about at the moment, but there may well be something in that.
Again, isn't that a great piece of advice for people, which is looking at the areas that are your weakest parts and saying, okay, let's not dilly-dally around here. Let's just use this time. And if you had to create 40 products, get them online, create the thing, look what will happen this time next year. Look at that extra revenue we've built into the company, all through a time of a pandemic. A couple of more questions. When do you think you'll be reopening?
Again, I think I really do think it's a moving target, this one. When we went into lockdown, I had my first model when people were talking about opening in June and July. I said, I just don't see this at all. We're going to do our first model on the first opening from the 1st of September.
Yeah.
And if we get a nice surprise, we'll get a nice surprise. That's good. And since then, I've done the second model as well, which is opening, is being closed all year. So all year to the 1st of January, because I need to plan the cash flow of the business through to them. It costs us a lot of money just to keep the doors shut on this business. Even though, we're super grateful what the government have done so far with furloughing and the other initiatives on business rates and so on. But as it stands at the moment, we only have surety for that until the end of June.
Yes.
So there's a lot of there's a lot of questions on the financial side. I'm actually in favour of staying closed a little bit longer and having with the hope that we might be able to operate a little more normally than rushing to open and operating in these rather peculiar in a rather peculiar fashion, which doesn't have the atmosphere that we were talking about earlier.
So many small businesses are worried about debt and taking on debt, and I've been encouraging them. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity to take the government up on what they're offering out there. You never know if you'll need it, until you need it, and then it might be too late. What's your views? You've been in your position, Robin, for a very long time in different hotels, from Hotel de Vin to Soho House to now the Pig and the Limewood. What's your view in terms of taking on debt or planning for the future? I mean, it has been an up and down roller coaster for you throughout all of your career. What are those things that you know to be true about that roller coaster?
I think debt needs to be treated with respect, but you shouldn't be scared of it. And I hear so many entrepreneurs or would-be entrepreneurs that talk about not giving away equity or trying to hang on to everything, and it can be the downfall of many a business because it's just undercapitalized and just not enough cash sloshing around the business, frankly. And I'm not suggesting to everyone that they go out and get a huge amount of debt that isn't reasonable for their circumstances and their business, but so long as you do it sensibly, as long as you make sure it works on paper before you try and make it work on the shop floor, then I'm not over anxious about debt. Having said all of that, we've managed to get from the government CBILS loan. We've just taken on an extra £4 million of debt, which of course is interest free for the first year, and then it drops back to some sort of normal rate. It's not free money, it still has to be repaid, and it changes our longer term outlook somewhat. But it's there, as you rightly say, is pretty cheap cash at the moment, and so long as you can see your way to repaying it or to servicing it at the appropriate time, then it's you will never have an opportunity to borrow cash on those terms. So treat it with respect, I would say, but don't be scared of it.
What's your take in terms of your last 30, 40 years in business and sort of maybe those common denominators that you might give as advice to this business community?
Nothing prepares you for what we've seen at the moment. And, I think it's really, really important to understand the workings of your business and understand its soft underbelly, if you like, so that because it's very easy for us to believe our own hype sometimes. And, I think understanding, for instance, in our business, the way we operate and the way we staff it, we have a huge staffing costs. I hope you'll never go to one of our hotels and feel that it's understaffed. But in order to do that, we completely rely on being very full. So our model is based on being above averagely full in order to do what we do on the cost side. So that's staff, or whether it's quality of produce, or whatever it is, all those other decisions. So I know that our soft underbelly, our weak spot is if we enter a period where we can't, for whatever reason, be as full as we want to.
Yeah. So it's. And during your career, that has been always what you've looked at, just sort of the weak spots of the business, and almost be more aware of it. Because I think a lot of people watching might not be aware of what their actual weak spot is. I just want to ask you one final question. Hospitality in general, the actual industry, do you think that we're going to see almost only the strongest survive? Do you think that there's going to be a complete shift in the way that we view it? Are we going to become, more staycation based? Are we going to travel less? What's your sort of overall view?
Well, I think that there are two elements to that question, and I think you only have to walk up and down any high street in the country and you see quite a lot of restaurants, for instance, with a very similar kind of offering.
Yeah.
And if I suspect that there will be some casualties in that end of the market, I really desperately hope that the fierce independent category won't see too many casualties. As far as the other part of the question, as we emerge out of this, I think there's going to be two conflicting attitudes, if you like. There's clearly going to be some pent-up demand, and I think the rural staycation will feel like quite a safe option. I can't imagine too many people are going to be desperate to get onto a packed flight to a packed resort. That doesn't feel, at the moment at least, something that perhaps many would want to do. So I think there will be definitely some pent up demand. However, there's a confidence issue, and it will be the balance of those two elements, colliding.
Robin, I totally agree. And thank you, Robin, again, so much for your time. It's been an utter pleasure.
Thank you, Holly. It's been great. Really good.
Take care,
Bye-bye.
Robin.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. He was just fantastic. If you haven't listened to the podcast, listen to it. It's phenomenal. And he is such a guy. He's been doing this forever. In summary, let's think about what Robin has said. Communication has never been more important for business. Keeping everybody, the team, the customers, reassured. And that level of communication is paramount. How can you use your business? What challenges can you set the team right now? What challenges can you set yourself? Robin talks about looking at his food costs. Check in, check out. Do you need staff at every single point in time? How can you streamline your business? Have you actually looked at your business or your dreams and really gone there to say, what can I do? How can I cut the meat off the bone, so to speak? Sorry to use that sort of analogy. That's how the old brain works. Also, as time carries on, look at what's sacred to your brand. Look at what things you would not actually do anything to, because that is your brand. Look at debt. You need to be treated with respect, but you don't need to be afraid of it. You're never going to get cheaper cash than the cash that's being offered right now. So please don't be afraid of it, but don't take it on if your business in a year's time cannot pay it back. So it is free at the moment. It's the best deal that you're going to get, but be aware that it's not free forever. And Robin said, I sincerely hope that the fierce independent category won't see too many casualties. Fierce and independent, that's you lot. Let's hope there aren't the casualties. Let's take Robin's advice on board. Thank you as ever to NatWest, Dell 3 and Royal Mail for helping me do these types of interviews that hopefully helps you. Thanks so much for joining.